It's Tom Hughes Zero News. I am got a few things going on at once at the moment. I'm sure you all have this time of year, but yeah. So it's unfortunately a quick one. I do want to do a live, and I'm going to try and do one as soon as possible. But in lieu of that live, I just wanted to cover something I started on the other day regarding war. I talked to you about how Keir Starmer was dragging us into a war. But some interesting statistics have come up that I've found come from an MSM article. So it's written like an MSM article, but some of the facts I've checked, and they are actually quoting YouGov polls. So some of it actually does check out. So yeah, I want to take a look at this review because it's quite serious. So much of what we're seeing is very much like the way World War II broke out in some ways, in terms of proxy wars, countries' responsibilities to other countries, all that kind of thing. The same sort of things happening. That's what people were worried about. But if you look at our government, particularly, it's not that they're being dragged into anything. It's that they are banging on the door of war. They're hungering for it, and this is the Labour Party, the peaceful party that doesn't believe in war or building weapons in Scotland or anything else. Remember that same party. This is the same party with the same standards, supposedly. They cannot wait for a war, even though we haven't got the ability to fight it. What do they know? And is it part of their European plans to get us back in Europe, to be fighting with Europe? Whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact of it is, everyone's going to have that feeling with this, like they did with COVID, that, oh, this is a surprise, as in this is no surprise. People have been talking about this for years. It's no surprise. And the way that they are going headlong into it, even the things that they're putting out into the public, they know that's going to get back to Russia. So they're telling their people to prepare for war. Well, Russia knows that propaganda, but at the same time, it will still have to take notice of it. So by putting that out there to us, it's not a warning for our safety. That's for Russian ears. Dangerous games they're playing. Especially if Russia decided to strike first and struck at Britain, we'd be done for before we'd even fired a shot. But they're talking about conscriptions. Your kids could be drafted into an army for a war that they wouldn't even see the sense in, that doesn't have any sense in us being involved in. And yet the British Army, the British government, out of nowhere, suddenly would throw its entire country into a conflict that it without backup it would lose in a day, and is a much easier target for Russia than a lot of the others are. So you really got to ask why at that point. And where's Mr. Starmer going to be when all this is going off? I wonder. Seriously, is he going to be in the country with his people, do you think, under that kind of threat? I doubt it. So I'll just read bits of this article. This is from the Mirror, but they're all saying the same thing. And so it's worth remembering, it's written from an MSM point of view. There's a lot of bollocks in here. So, just take that as a given. So it says the UK government is reportedly rapidly developing contingency plans to brace for the potential warfare. Well, that's a problem. Rapidly developing when it takes 2 years to build an army, it's not quick enough, is it? If it comes to the Ukraine-Russia conflict intensifies, the threats of conflict between NATO and Russia looking more likely. European Union is... bear in mind, that's NATO's choice. European Union... there's a peace deal that was being worked out. And they've chosen to escalate things. European Union has opted to permanently freeze 184 billion of Russia's assets. I saw this story the other day, and there's two ways of looking at this story. That they've frozen them a bit like they do the other. I forget what they call it now, but when they they freeze their money from other types of money coming in and out of the country. I forget what it's called. It's just momentarily gone out of my mind, but people know what I'm talking about. They freeze a lot of Russian assets, but this is different. It's almost like they're going to steal the money. The way it was worded was that they were going to take it and keep it. It's for the European Union. It sounded very much in the article like the European Union were stealing it, but not in that name. They were liberating it. You know, that kind of speak. It was very, very duplicitous. And I don't know. I'm not saying they're definitely in the wrong, but all I'm saying is it looked like a cash grab. It just looked like a blatant cash grab. So these people are saying the experts are saying Britain is not prepared for war. We don't need experts for that, but we do. We need them to actually say this. So the shrinking ranks of Britain's military have sent off warning bells amongst national security specialists, with one ex-commander cautioning that the nation would be virtually helpless should Vladimir Putin launch a direct assault, which is what we've just been saying, after sweeping military defence budget slashes that kicked off in 2010. And it's been going downhill since then. It's not like we've done anything to mitigate that. If anything, it's sped up. We massively downsized. So it says merely 74,000 regular forces personnel are currently enlisted in the British Army. 74,000. That's not... Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Marking the smallest figure since Napoleonic era. So, good couple of 100 years. When Britain rolled out, so it's just talking about conscription and what it used to be. But there's no point worrying about what it used to be because they're just going to make up the rules as they go along today. So, let's have a look. And idiot libertarians in this country, by the way, just as an aside to this main story, is that they are fighting. They're fighting for women's rights, for women to be conscripted into the army, into the front lines, so that they can face certain deaths just like the men. So they could be victimized just like the men are. Equal opportunities, right? But anyway, it says that the world's entered a pre-war phase, according to all these experts. And so the YouGov survey revealed that numerous young Britons would refuse to take up arms, even if the nation faced invasion. And this is what many of us have been talking about. And it says around 38% of those under 40 declared that they would refuse to serve in the military if World War III erupted. Whilst 30% would serve even if the UK confronted imminent invasion. I think we know who a lot of them are, but I believe that. I believe that those YouGov polls, I do believe those numbers are probably somewhere around the right figure, at least in belief. Whether it would come down to that when it actually happened, I don't know. But as they sit believing things right now, I believe those figures. I believe they're rough, because got a lot of people here that don't feel like it's their country. Got a lot of people here that feel that they've lost their country. And you got a lot of people. Yeah, it's one way or another. I think our culture's on the way out, and not because it's antiquated, not because it's wrong, but because there are just some redacted people in the world that just need it to be more messed up than it is. Let's have a look. The government has stated there are no proposals for any type of national service in the UK. It would really make them hypocrites if it did. But at times of war, if they get us into, if he pulls us into something like that, he wouldn't have a choice probably, because not enough people would be. It's not like we're defending our country, so it's not like people would be climbing the walls for action like they normally would be. Yeah, people wouldn't be filling their offices, so they didn't have to pull people into the army. They'd have to pull people into the army, because I think people would refuse to fight for them. What would happen then? What would happen then? With, then you get to see the real faces of the government. You get to see how far we've come since World War II. You'll find out we haven't come a single step. That's what I've been realizing a lot recently, is that people haven't learned a damn. All these people walk around with these stupid signs, never again, both sides, and the fact of it is nobody's learned anything. Nobody's learned anything, really. And that guy that went on the news, the old guy that fought in the war and that, and said, what was it all for, You've got to think he's right to feel the way he feels. I do feel like I'm watching, and when I started my life, I didn't feel like this, but I do feel like I'm watching like the sunset of a culture. Some people don't even know it's coming yet because they're in protected areas. Mine's reasonably protected, or has been. I was one of those places, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's the way that we really could be defeated. It's not about fighting us. It's about just keeping us asleep, place by place, because that's how it's worked so far. Anyway, I'm blabbering. I'll get off here, but I just wanted to catch up with you guys and just mention some of this stuff to you because, yeah, he's pulling us into war. Not only do we not have the equipment for, the money for, anything else, but also we know that the people won't be there to fight it. So what is he doing? He's going to get us all killed. Anyway, Tom Fury is doing news. Call it a day for now.